That's
Where you at, bro? Get out here.
All right. What are you waiting for? We don't want to waste any more time, so let me do some brief introductions. Welcome to the voice acting panel. Starting with Caitlyn Barr, is a Texas-based voice actress and scriptwriter working with Funimation Entertainment, Sentai Filmworks, Operatron 5000, and excuse me if I mangle a word, Blue Jay Studios, and many other exciting producers of anime, video games, and YouTube content. Caitlyn's been honored to lend her voice to over 50 anime titles such as Anonymous Noise, Blazers, Space Battleship Yamato 2199, one of my favorites, Chaika the Coffin Princess, and many more. Recently, Caitlyn provided the voice of Luca in Phoenix Drop High, Graduation Days, and Falcon Claw University, two of many popular series by well-known YouTuber Afmao. Some favorite video game credits include Twisted Metal in Oregon and Smite, and Yumi in Carpe Diem Reboot. As a scriptwriter, Caitlyn has created English dub scripts for hit shows such as One Piece, D. Gray Man, Code Geass, Keto the Exiled, and Haikyuu, as well as the action-packed favorite Akame ga Kill, which aired on Toonami in 2015, just to name a few. When she's not working, Caitlyn loves swimming, playing drums, and petting dogs. All right. Next up, contributing to the anime world since 2003, beginning with ADV Films, Blake Shepard regularly lends his vocal talents to Funimation. Sarah from Digital, his unique tone and versatility has allowed him to provide performances for a range of characters in shows such as Food Wars, Air Gear, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, One Piece, Attack on Titan, Halo Legends, and many more. As an animator, Blake Shepard has also provided the Anime Network with original animation as well as creating promos and bumpers for the network. His company, Dinosaur Productions, focuses on original content and new technologies. His new project, Robot Girl Chronicles, is currently in production. Caitlyn French is fairly new to the scene, having debuted in 2012 as Kumola from Book of Bantora. She's had roles such as Shiro from No Game, No Life, Chris from Cross Ange, Hannah Isuzu from Girls und Panzer, Sakura Inami, Beyond the Boundary, Aston from Sunday Without God, and more. Most recently reprised her role as Shiro and took on Shui Dola for No Game, No Life Zero. Finally, but certainly not least of all, Jersey boy turned Texan Michael A. Zekas is the voice actor with Funimation, Media Blasters, Afternow, Team Dog Pit, and a myriad of game developers across the U.S. and around the world. You can check out his performances as Koyuken in Hakyu Hoshin Enji, Katse in I No Kusabi, and his breakout role Cliff's Drive in Holy Night, along with other recent series Legend of the Galactic Heroes Black Clover, Star Blazers 2199, and more. On the game side, select works include Fallen Legion, Rise to Glory, Heroes Arena and Heroes Charge, Techno Babylon, Shardlight, and Slam Fighter 2, as well as the upcoming Red Star Azimuth from Austin-based studio Team Dogpit. Michael also works on the other side of the glass as an audio engineer and casting director and handles communications for Dallas-based Starman Studios. When attempting to not work, you can find him hunting for a good cup of coffee, showing off his puppies, or posing fabulously like a joke star. All right. I'm going to pass this down here. I'm just going to shout my questions so that they can share the microphone. If you need me to shout louder, let me know.
Yes. Or just shout.
Yeah.
Project.
You guys should be able to project, right?
Yes.
And I'm just naturally loud. All right. So, what originally got you interested in voice acting? This is for all of you, so you can take your turns.
Sorry, looked at me.
Because you have the microphone.
Oh, that's true.
No one else can hear us.
Yeah, you're so quiet.
Oh, come on, really?
Talk. Say things.
You're the
I
vet.
was
You
gonna
would
say
have been the
ladies
one that
first,
got
but-
interested first.
Ouch!
Oldest.
I'd like to find wine.
So what got me first interested in voice acting?
So I started as an actor just in general, and I was just looking for different things to do because at the time what I was doing is dressing up in unitards, like Power Rangers, Spider-Man, Batman characters, and doing kids' parties on the weekends, and like showing up at a birthday party. And if you're a kid out there who didn't know Spider-Man wasn't a real person, I'm sorry, I did not mean to disillusion you. He's real. He's in New York. I'm just a satellite Spider-Man.
Bring me pictures of Spider-Man.
Bring me pictures of Spider-Man. But anyway, I was looking for new avenues that didn't involve me wearing a unitard all the time. And this actress that I worked with said, hey, there's this place called ADV Films. They need guys with your voice range. You should audition. And I never considered it as anything. I didn't even know it was really a job in Houston that you could get. So I did that, and then this whole world opened up of industrial voiceover and reading audiobooks and all these fun things. So it's kind of just become a career. I never really sought it out, but I was always into animation and I always loved voice actors. I never really thought about it because I'd always been one of those kids that watched all my animes in Japanese. So, because there wasn't as many options. Like we used to watch them on VHS. And I bought a VHS from the Galleria in Houston, and it was an hour-long movie, and it was $45 because they had to import it from Japan. It was so expensive. My mom's like, "You're not getting anything for your money."
Kids are so lucky.
Typical response.
Back when seasons were
I never thought it was. I'm just happy to be here, guys.
Yeah. Give it to him because he's all the way over there.
Right. What you got, Jersey?
It's all okay. So yeah, being from New Jersey and all that sort of stuff. I know actually. So, having enjoyed acting in high school and in college, but telling myself, no, it's only a hobby. Do something that'll make money. So I decided to try and go into government so I could get some kind of pension, just be some nameless paper pusher to change the world, and then realized that I was completely unemployable with that expensive college degree. So was at time I was living in Washington, D.C., and I was, having fun, going to conventions. I always enjoyed animation, video games, remembering the halcyon days of the late 90s, early 2000s, and when voiceover was just starting to pop up in games like Brave Fencer Musashi, hearing Mona Marshall, and what I realized only a few years ago was Steve Bloom in yet another game. And so I was going to conventions, was enjoying acting on the side, just playing around, trying to make a friend circle. And then one time I was at a convention and I was talking to one of my good friends, was teasing them, switching between a few different character roles. And like a scene out of an anime, she goes, "You jerk," grabs me by the arm, drags me up to an open audition that she happened to be the casting director for, and put copy in front of me and said, "I'm auditioning for the main character in this video game, Reed." Oh, this is interesting. All the hours I've spent enjoying everything and listening to this, and even listening to radio commercials and listening to television commercials, observing everything that I was hearing in these different kinds of characters, and I said, I want to turn this into a business. Or rather at first, I want to do character work, which turned into, want to turn this into a business. Went back to school for a period of time to do some audio engineering, to produce my own work, and just from there, tried to learn how to be able to deliver everything as believable as possible, because it's just a world where you get to create every day, and there is everything is a new adventure, and it's just so exciting to be able to take that dream and actually have turned it into something that is a career.
Yay!
Caitlyn's. Address the group. You first, me first?
You go.
Okay. I'm just delegating it to everyone. I was an actor first. I went to college for acting. I got my degree in theater. And I was from North Carolina, and there is no anime studio in North Carolina. There's not a lot in North Carolina. I moved to Texas, moved to Houston first, and did a lot of theater and a lot of like indie film and commercials and stuff like that. And eventually I got an audition at Sentai. They were doing an open call. And I auditioned for Emily Neves, and she liked me, I guess. And I ended up doing anime with Sentai for a few years, and then just recently I've started working with Funimation too. So I moved up to Dallas, and now I work at Funimation full-time as a scriptwriter and voice actor also. That was fast. Did I? Oh yeah, quick like a bunny. What?
Did you say, I think you said quick like butter. And I was like, what's happening?
What is happening in the
Like
world? What
exotic
is
butter.
this?
Exotic butter.
So I started as an actor also, but I have to attribute the fact I became an actor because I really enjoyed, when I was little, Sailor Moon and Ronin Warriors on USA Channel. They had a little action block. And I was just over creative, and my mom was like, we need to do something with you because you're not focusing in dance class. And that became putting me on a stage and acting and learning to be a character. So I just never grew out of dress up. So I went to college, started pursuing acting because that's just what I had always done. And I ended up touring with a performing group, a steampunk group that did MC duties for conventions. We got hired, we dressed up, we played characters, helped people around the convention. And while I was doing that, I was also in my senior year of college, so I was riding my burnout phase. And that's when I ended up meeting Chris Ayers. And it was kind of nice because I was at a struggle point in college that everybody in theater will hit because you have not seen the sky, you don't know what color grass is, you've been living in a cave that is the giant theater hall because you're doing everything. And he was helpful when I was struggling with what my directors were saying. So while I was on the road, I was getting to meet with Chris, and he'd be like, no, your director's right to be critiquing you about this, and this is why. Or he'd be like, well, maybe you should approach them this way about it. So it was having another mentor out there who could help me see in perspective that I didn't previously have. And he's also a master improver, and that was a lot of my focus in college. So when I moved from Kansas, which there's not a lot out there, just like North Carolina, but maybe even less and pretty flat, I moved down here to Austin, and about 6 months in, he called me and asked me if I had moved to Texas, and I said yes. He goes, well, could you drive over? Because I think I have a role I want you to audition for, and that's how I got in. It was kind of weird.
So to piggyback on that, what was your first professional job in the industry? And we can just go right down the line.
Kumola in the Book of Bantora.
I was Liliana in Log Horizon.
Like I played Shaggy from Scooby-Doo at Horizon Wireless in a mall.
Okay, again, what up that? No, I was just doing a character, Lord Nengorth, in the video game Lords of Shulima, released about 5 years ago.
Did you mean an anime or just in work?
Any professional.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my
Oh,
first
then I did
professional.
dinner theater.
Yeah.
See, I did it.
Although
right.
anime-
I want to change my answer. Okay, first professional acting gig, I was on a 9-month tour of a musical version of Hank the Cowdog.
Oh, that's awesome.
I played Pete the Barn Cat. Yeah.
Pete the Barn.
Pete the Barn Cat.
All right.
Proud of that.
Are you anime fans yourselves, and if so, which ones?
Yes, so obviously I grew up as the Toonami generation with everything on Toonami, so I'm going to count that. But recent shows that I'm going to say I've been really, really hooked on, Tiger and Bunny, Fate Apocryphica. I'm actually getting really heavy into the Fate series now, and I really enjoy Parasite the Max Ball, so.
I liked Sailor Moon ever since it first came out. I still like it. I have too many Sailor Moon toys in my house.
Same.
She's like, same.
Yeah.
I still really like it. Now that I work in it full time, I don't spend as much time watching it if I'm not working on it, but my other favorite is Baccano. Everyone should watch Baccano.
I still really like Akira, which is from the 90s. And I also have gotten into some other animes as of late. I really like Tanaka-kun is Always Listless. It's a really nice show to fall asleep to. I'm into like fall asleep shows. Yeah, Food Wars is really good. And I really want to watch that space one.
Space Brothers?
Space Brothers.
Oh, it's with the pug.
Yes.
It takes place in Houston.
What?
Yeah,
I have
because
to
it's
watch
about
it.
NASA.
What?
Yeah. Are you thinking about Space Battleship Yamato? Because that's something different.
No, Space Bros.
Space
it's
Brothers.
Totally Space Bros.
Well, what is Space Battleship Yamato? Sorry, I'm done.
It's awesome.
So in terms of classic anime, probably my favorite of all time will be Ranma 1/2 for just how deliciously ridiculous it always was. And also I think maybe with the Toonami generation, just throw them all in there. Everything that Tom announced, we'll just bond over that. And anything that was sold at Suncoast Video for $25 for 3 episodes we're done.
Yeah.
Suncoast, I missed that.
You know what Suncoast is? I feel ya.
I do. I shop there.
And so recently, like Caitlyn said, unfortunately, the more you work in the kind of stuff, the less time you do. Although, of course, I sneak in time for video games still. But had really loved Tiger and Bunny when it was released. Shiki when that came out.
Yes,
And yeah, that was so. I love series that are particularly fabulous. I read JoJo, and so I've been meaning to actually now watch the adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in anime, and all of it. And right now, I'm enjoying everything of Pop Team Epic.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you guys ever watch Super Milk Chain?
I know it.
All right, what are you guys currently working on? If you can talk about it. I know sometimes you know it.
Okay, I'll answer this one. So as a writer, I get to write 2 simuldubs every season. This is the end of the current anime season, so I'm finishing up Angels of Death, which is amazing, and everyone should watch it. It's a horror anime. It's really, really, really good. And also I just finished writing season 3 of Free, Swim Boys.
Free?
And acting-wise, I'm still not quite done recording on Hanabado, which is the show about a high school badminton team, but it's also weirdly psychological horror sometimes. You should watch that. And others that I can't talk about.
I just finished working on Mr. Tonagawa. So I just worked on that show the other day. And I can talk about that one, but the other ones I can't talk about. But that one I worked on.
So in terms of anime, the recurring roles I have finished up in a recent simuldub season for the time being, but currently working on a few different video games. The primary one is called Red Star Azimuth. It is the story of a Soviet fighter pilot who's assigned to the Baikonur Cosmodrome to be able to conduct an experimental space mission. And it turns out she also has the power to manipulate time and memory. It's a story by Team Dogpit here out of Austin that has been in production for about the last year now. It's been an absolute blast to work on. Have some things that I'm editing up. Sadly, I don't got a lot of NDA bound stuff, unfortunately.
You will. It's like, I feel like it's an ebb and flow. Sometimes you have nothing, and sometimes you have a ton of stuff, you know?
Exactly, so it's kind of just, excuse the Great Wall of China, but yes, Red Star Azimuth being the biggest thing right now that is in production and is not pending, well, is pending release.
Yeah.
I'm in the nothing phase. You will learn with acting. It is either a rainy season where it is coming down every which direction and you don't know when you're going to sleep, or you're going to have those months where you're just like, do I exist?
Yeah. It's a thing.
I did extra voices for Robot Girl, so check that out. That's something I'm in.
Yeah, for me to bring you back on some stuff.
But yes, that is.
All right. Have you ever had a job where you had to voice multiple characters in one anime or game title? And if so, how do you manage to keep the voice styles separate?
Actually, I'm going to answer this one just because of Little Busters, and you're also in that show. That show was one where I played the same character but shadow versions of themselves. I think everybody in acting gets actually their start doing multiple characters, their wall-up. You are the background voices where you are playing a soldier who dies, or you're having a conversation in a cafe and playing side big characters. So you actually get started playing multiple characters and just switching up your voice. But when you're playing long term, it's a little difficult because for me, we go through one entire character first, and then we go back and do the other one, and I play off myself, at least with anime. When we did Little Busters, there's an episode that I think just broke me down, where I went through as the kind of the happy-go-lucky but kind of a jerk character first, and then I went back as the quiet character and recorded and played off myself, and then apparently just destroyed myself in the process of doing that emotionally. Little Busters is a really good show if you haven't watched it, but I find it hard to do any sort of immediate back and forth. I have to go all the way through one character, stop, then go through another. And then listen to yourself a lot. You have to be very familiar with your voice to know if you are separating them out enough.
Yeah, that was a really thorough answer. Like, I'm glad you brought that up.
I do it a lot.
Oddly enough. Yeah, one thing I think a lot of people don't realize, think about, is that yeah, you have all your main characters, you have your main cast, but there could be 50 to 100 characters that are just like guy on the street, and they're not going to get different actors for every single one of those big characters. So sometimes you'll play 3 or 4 characters in one episode. I once played 6 different little boys in one show, but it's fun. It's your chance. I like to use it as a chance to show the director, oh look, I have range and different things. You can throw a different voice on, girl B than you used for old lady 7A or whatever. Obviously you would want to. It's a bad example. You know what I mean? Talk.
So I do multiple characters a lot. I kind of got on this kick for a while where they were casting me as either someone with a split personality or someone where you find out that the father is a clone of the kid, so they're both the same person. So I had to play the dad and then I had to play the son. And I'm kind of in a different boat than Caitlyn's on this because I like doing them back to back. I don't like going all the way through as one character and then going back and doing the other character. I like doing one, and then immediately I think about how the other character would react, and then I'm ready to do the other character. But a lot of times the directors don't want you to do that just because they're not comfortable doing that, so sometimes I have to go all the way through. But I think a lot of it is just intent. So one time I got a really funny role where they're like, hey, you're going to be this character. It's like, okay, great, and I go in and I find out it's 7 characters and they're all twins. And each one has a different personality. And so I'm playing slightly different variations of the same voice with different intention. And I think a lot of it really is just, sometimes you just have to give yourself a different, a different color. That sounds kind of silly. But if one character's yellow, make the next character green, or make the next character blue, or and kind of come at it from that way, and then you're not so much focused on how your voice sounds, you're more focused on your intention, and then it will naturally start to feel different because of the way you're approaching it. Does that make sense?
That's a good way to look at it. I'm steal that.
Yeah.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly. There is one game developer in particular I work with who almost takes joy in going, okay, what can I have you do today? There was one particular game in which I had done 4 different characters in one session in which I was in a bootlegging simulator, a bookie, a mobster, an FBI agent, and a moonshine emporium entrepreneur.
Wow.
I feel like you fought yourself a lot.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. The entire time I'm running scared for myself as the brother of the main character would, sis, look, you really want to, I don't think we should be doing this. I mean, the books are quite added up, right? I think they get a little suspicious to us. And then you show up as the FBI guy and it's just like, Miss Caraway, Agent Wolfsheim, I've got my eye on you. And changing back and forth with everyone to accommodate it. Or of course there's Uncle Billy where it's just sort of, hey, buy your supplies and stop by. I also got a little something special in case you're looking for it if you got my
Correct.
It's like said, just add a color in every character, even when similar voice will have something different that's driving it. So there's secrets, as Monica Rial would say, or there's different, there are so many things that could be done.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times you'll do a character, and then they'll have you do another character right next to it, and you'll go watch the DVD, and they've just like pitched one down.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be like, I don't sound like that.
I can sound like an adult normally. I can't.
So what was your favorite character to bring to life?
Oh, that's really hard for me because no, I don't want to. It's like picking a favorite child for me because I always pick. Whenever I'm picked for a role, I assume the director saw something in my voice and my performance that made them associate me with that character. So I always try to put some aspect of me and relate to that character, even if it's a bad guy, finding one motivation or one thing that I can be like, okay, I relate and put that into my performance. I can say that there is some heavy favoritism from Shiro from No Game No Life and Shubi from No Game No Life Zero. They are very fun. I am a gamer myself. I find sometimes the attitude of not wanting to get out of bed in the morning very relatable. So I think that's one of the roles that I feel very strongly connected with. Another one would be Kureha Sakamachi from Mayo Chiki because I'm a huge wrestling fan and I got cast in that role because I was a wrestling fan. And it was one of the few times that I actually got to cut loose because I play all these quiet characters and she was pretty much Jessica Cabello on steroids. I listened to her voice before I went in, like invited her over to my house so I could hear her talk.
Nice. I used to feel that way about how like it's picking a child, but let's be honest, like all parents have a favorite child. And mine is La Pucelle from Magical Girl Raising Project. I feel really bad that I didn't bring her up in the last question actually because Magical Girl Raising Project is about a mobile game that people all over Japan are playing, and one day the game becomes real for like a small percentage of people in the world. They actually get to become their magical girl avatar from the game. And my character was a 13-year-old boy who was like the only boy in his class that liked magical girls. My heart. And so he became his magical girl avatar in real life, so he turned into a girl. So I got to play a little boy and a strong woman in the same show, and it was the same character, and those are my two favorite types to play. So La Pucelle is my favorite child, and everyone has a favorite child. Thank you.
I had a fun villain in a show called Shadow Skill, who was kind of one of my favorites, because he was very much just like a DBZ villain. Dragon Ball Z is the acronym I've learned. DBZ. It's a thing. It's a thing people say.
DBZ, yes.
But my favorite characters that I ever brought to life was actually an original series that I created that I pitched to a big studio, and they ended up turning it down, so I can tell you about it because we're not going to probably make it. And pretty soon after that, they came out with Foster's Home of Imaginary Friends, which kind of made me mad because they still might do. I'm sure they didn't, but it was a story about Dr. Frankenstein living in his castle, and he creates a man, and his thing at the beginning is like, I always wanted to make a man, and I always wanted to see a turtle go really fast. So he has the Frankenstein monster, and then he has a little turtle, which he's like genetically modified sneakers onto the turtle's feet so the turtle's really fast, and then there's a big knock at the door, and it's all the villagers. And they've got all their blow torches, their torches and their pitchforks and everything. And he comes to the door, he's like, no! And then they're like, hey, you won a trip to Vegas. We had a town raffle and you won. And so him and Igor go to Vegas and they start gambling and doing all their stuff. And the monster and the turtle are left in the house all by themselves with all of Frankenstein's creations. So the whole show is them going through to different rooms and finding new monsters at every turn.
Aww.
And so the first episode was it was called Erratic. And it's a rabbit and a duck mixed together, but it's a carnivore. And so that was a cute character that I liked. Long answer.
Monty Python.
Villagers with blowtorches.
Yes.
I was going to say, I want to watch this now. This sounds awesome. So my favorite was the character Sergei Ionescu. He is the 5-time People's Choice Awards winner of Bucharest and the Illustoci Decide of Iron Curtain. He debuts in a video game called Slam Fighter 2. And the reason why Sergey is so much fun to play is because he is a complete goofball for reasons. Of course, in the name of fearless leader, I will make punishment of you. And a lot of the kind of character that I had a chance to work with the writer, and as we kept throwing things back and forth, she said, let's do this, now let's add this. And the writing took on a form where it was the character she intended, which he was a rap-quoting Soviet in a world of smack-talking fighters. And then suddenly all these other things throw in, and then suddenly there's another part of the backstory. And the thing about this character is it was on a project that ultimately led to the friendship that helped me to start a new life coming to Texas. And as just working with this character and everything getting to create it, but as a memory of, if it were not for this role, I would not be here. And the wonderful people I've gotten to meet and things I've gotten to do, they would have not happened as they have. So it's just a life-changing one because of that.
Awesome. All right, do you have any humorous stories you'd like to share from your careers?
Caitlyn. What? They're all bombs, but we all know we don't leave nice bombs for each other.
Yeah, we can't say any of
So, I'm going to explain what a bomb is that when an actor goes in to record, sometimes we think it's funny to record a line wrong, and the director thinks it's funny to keep the line and put it in for the next actor. So sometimes actors will leave these little bombs, and the director will be in on it, so that when the other actor is sitting there seriously recording, reading it, and that line happens, it's to break them up and get them to drop character. And one of my favorites was actually done by Meg McDonald. Chris had left it in there, and I wasn't expecting it, and I couldn't stop laughing afterwards. And I felt I had to take a break because the tone of the line is the exact same as the line that she delivered.
Yeah.
And so I kept hearing that because the words it was a single word off. And so every time I'd get there and I was just like, I'm sorry. Also, any time following Jessica, I did a show called Maria Holic. And I don't know why, but Jessica Cavello delivered a line and I had to record right after her. And I played, Matsurika is very neutral in this tone. She doesn't show emotion. And I couldn't stop laughing. Following Jessica Cavello in the booth is almost torture because her lines and what you know she's been cast in, you're gonna die because, oh my gosh.
Man, I thought of like 4 stories, but none of them are appropriate. So, I'm gonna say there's an engineer at Sentai, his name's Ricardo, and he's awesome, and he's really, really fast. Like his hands just like fly over the keyboard. It's amazing. I'm like, how do you do? But anyway.
He's not really pushing anything. He just goes
He's
like
just doing this, and somehow it works. You've seen him do this. It's like he's not making contact. It's just like,
You're just like, what are you doing?
He's-
That's how Jessica knew the audio engineer was just watching him.
because he's magical. One time when I went in to record for Brynhilder in the Darkness, I had a really bad like sinus infection, and I sounded really gross. So I tried to record a line, and I kept having like weird like snot sounds in my throat, and like I couldn't get rid of it. I was like coughing and hacking, and like it wouldn't go away. And so I finally like was like, okay, I got it. I'm medicated. I like blew my nose. I'm good. And I like go to do the line, and there's like this weird like noise, like it's a gross, embarrassing nasal noise that I can't possibly recreate now. And Ricardo just like sampled it and played it on loop for the rest of my session. Every time I opened my mouth to record a line, the character ahead of me would have that noise. Like she'd just open her mouth and like, oh. It was the worst thing ever. And now you guys know me too well.
Yeah, one time I left a funny bomb for Lucy Christian, and then I forgot that I left it. And then she sent me a text and was like, why did you call me this? And I was like, what? I did? She's like, yeah, in the show. And I was like, oh, Okay. It's like, I didn't think I would call you that. And then I was like, no, in that context, yes, I would. And then I left another funny one for Chris Patton one time in one of our shows, where he shows up as like a side character, he's like, hey guys, what's up? In my next line, I just made it, get out of my show, Chris Patton!
Sounds like him.
So it was pretty fun.
There was one time I was cast in a show and I was given the role of two businessmen. Okay, lovely, cool, I'll do this. It ended up being an 80-hour gig I did from home, so cool, I will go in to record this. Businessman A, line, give in. Businessman B, moan.
Oh.
Is this what I watched the video? It's what I think it is. I've been hired to go F myself. Most satisfying paycheck ever, question mark?
Okay. All right, we have a few minutes left. Does the audience have any questions? Be brave. Now's your chance.
We'll ask you questions.
Okay, just go back.
How's it like working in Funimation?
Fun.
Fast paced.
Yeah. Funimation does things really differently than Sentai does. There's like two different methods for recording ADR. There's chase method and 3-beat method. And Sentai uses chase method where like you just record your whole scene like until you mess up and then you like take it back from where you messed up and keep going. But Funimation, like they preview it and then you have 3 beeps before your line, so you know like 1, 2, 3, go, and then you start talking. And that's weird to get used to after you've been at Sentai for a long time. Like, do you forget that they preview the line and then just go for it? And they're like, what are you doing?
I feel like it all depends on the director. It's, you know, each director does it different at Funimation and at Sentai. So it's really just, I mean, at first it was kind of weird, but I think that it's good if you work with a lot of directors who have a lot of different styles. The main thing that's made it crazy for me was the simuldubbing. Mm-hmm. Because you don't get to see the whole show before you start recording. Mm-hmm. So your hope, like, it almost, sometimes I feel like maybe it might keep me from making risks that I otherwise would if I knew where it's going. Mm-hmm. I don't take as many risks. I try to, you know, because you don't know where your character's going to end up, or you know, so it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
Up here in front.
Yeah.
What do you think is like your most famous role that you've ever done?
You want to go down the line?
Mine would definitely be Shiro and Shubi from No Game No Life, No Game No Life Zero. That's the one I actually did an LA premiere for, and it released nationwide in theaters for a while, which was really cool.
Yeah. Also, you are Shiro, and I love it. It's weird to me, like, I don't get nearly as much, like, reaction about all the anime roles I've done as I do for AFMAL, which is like, if some of y'all don't know, it's like it's a bunch of different YouTube series, and it's like Minecraft roleplay. And I got the role and I didn't even know what it was. I was like, what, really, what is this? And it's got like 3 million followers, and people will be like, oh, like, I'll see people like at an anime convention, and they'll be like, I don't know you from anime, but AFMAL. And I'm like, cool, I'm really glad. But like a month ago, I didn't know what that was. So it's weird. You never know, like you might be in something really big and really popular and think that it's gonna be a big deal, but then like the people you meet at a convention are really excited about this other thing that you thought no one really cared about. It's crazy.
So I have 2 different ones because I just got back from Japan and I found out that my most famous role is actually Chihaya Furu.
Wow.
If I'm in Japan.
Yeah.
Or pirate in One Piece. And in America, I would probably say Air Gear. Agito or Hakuoki is a really popular show. I see a lot of people that are interested in Hakuoki. So.
Yeah, Japan definitely has a duality. Mine would be Hana Isuzu, because I just also got back from Japan recently.
So one of them I'd say is similar to Caitlyn. The AFMAL fandom is massive, and they
Love them.
Oh yeah, the passion of the fandom is wonderful, and there's stuff working on a series that ended about 6 months ago where people are still just all about it. So it's wonderful to see. So, character from one of the series there, and the other one I found is a skin I did for the video game Smite, Susano Primal Storm, since Smite is just, as someone in the US would say, huge.
All right, one last question.
Besides conventions, do you ever get recognized
In the streets?
Caitlyn, you want to answer that? You want to talk about the last time we were
Like outside of
I can't go anywhere, actually. To be fair, there was a convention in town that day, but
Yeah, but it was like blocks away.
we walked to, there wasn't a lot of food. I went to a hotel, a convention with her, and we were walking to get food, because there wasn't a whole lot around, and I was tired of hotel food. You get tired of hotel food after a while, so we went to this McDonald's a little while away, walking, and we went in there, and then everybody's like, you did that panel, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, please. And they wanted to take selfies at McDonald's, and I was like,
And
no.
this McDonald's was like, it was one of those with like the self-order thing.
Yeah, I was sitting there just trying to order.
And so like you were like pushing past people, and then we went outside, and we had to eat on the bench because there was too many people in there, and then like people were walking by like.
In Austin, also I've had this issue at another McDonald's where I'd go through a drive-thru and someone's like, I know your voice, and I'm like, oh god.
I've never had that happen.
I've had it, somebody I met at a convention here, you just find in random places. But yeah, I've actually had that problem, and it's very odd when that happens. Or you have a mother like mine who sells me out down the river anytime I'm out in public.
I love your mom so much.
Oh my gosh, it's the worst.
That's it. It's so like it doesn't happen as much to voice actors because
No.
you're not known for your face.
It's
In
just
fact,
weird
I've
when
been
it does
mistaken
happen.
for her probably more times. Actually, today a few times.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was like, Caitlyn French.
It's okay, everyone thinks I'm Caitlyn Glass.
There's 4 Caitlyns in anime, and I want us to all do a con together one day and call it Caitlyn Con. Next year this time. Yes.
And I'll be working the door.
Yeah. Yeah, Blake.
Welcome to
Blake.
Caitlyn Con, may I take your order?
Oh, as long as you're wearing like a uniform.
Where are you
Yeah.
taking orders?
Well, because at McDonald's there.
Oh, it's at a McDonald's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Welcome to Katelyn Con, sponsored by McDonald's.
I'm all about it.
Yeah, but honestly, I feel like I've been recognized more for my band than I have for anime. When I go to bars sometimes in Houston, people recognize me for, I used to be in a band and we did like disco rock, and we used to tour a lot, and so I get recognized for that.
So I just get mistaken for all the Caitlyns. Everyone just thinks I look very Caitlyn.
Yeah.
It's not red hair, it's true. I could make this worse.
Okay, so obviously twinsies, yes. You see right now, you can't even tell which one of us is
I know.
which side of the table. So most times where I gotten recognized was usually for game dev type events, say, when not voice acting, I had done a lot of expoing, showing off projects I had worked on with dev teams. And so, especially in Austin, there'd be a lot of times where I'd run into things and going, we know each other. We shared a drink together months ago. One time I was in Dallas and I was talking with someone, and all of a sudden realized he had been at the very first expo where I had showed off a video game 3 years prior, and my only thought is, wait, why are you here? What's happened? And yeah, so much more fairly underground in terms of recognized, but popped up in industry circles.
I have a question. Have you guys ever been asked to do a role and the director thinks you're someone else?
You should tell us about it, Blake.
Oh dear.
Well, one of my corporate directors one time, I was putting together an industrial demo reel, which was like, it was for e-learning and all kinds of other voice acting stuff, and I was like, hey, could you send me some of my samples? Because he had recorded a lot of my stuff. I'd gone to their studio and recorded it. I said, could you send me some? I'm gonna put music on it, I'm gonna cut it, make a demo. And he ended up sending me other actors' work along with my own, like mixed in, like he couldn't tell the difference between our voices. So I never finished my demo because I didn't have the heart to tell him that it wasn't all me.
Wow.
Well, a big round of